Thank you for taking the time to listen to our story. Prepare yourself, because what you are about to hear may make you shiver in the dark. House on Windermere Hill. The wind whistled through the bare trees of Windermere Hill, carrying with it the cold and gloom of a forgotten place. On the top of the hill, an old wooden house stands quietly like a relic of the past, a place that has witnessed many mysterious stories. People around the area say that anyone who steps in there will never return. Jake Thompson, a young journalist from New York, doesn't believe the rumors. He has spent years pursuing strange cases, and this time, the house on Windermere Hill is the next target. That night, he drove through the deserted road, the wind howling outside the window. As he approached the house, he felt like someone was watching him. The wooden gate creaked open when he pushed gently. In front of him, the path leading to the house was covered with dry leaves and scattered with broken branches. He took a deep breath and walked up the old steps. As soon as he touched the door handle, the door automatically opened, as if inviting him inside. The space inside is dark and cold. The flashlight in his hand scanned each dusty wall. Old portrait paintings hung along the hallway. Their eyes seemed to follow his every step. Jake felt goosebumps rising, but he reassured himself that it was just an illusion. Entering the living room, he discovered a grandfather clock that had stopped at 3:15 a.m., the moment when, according to the stories he gathered, the Holloway family disappeared without a trace. He opened his notebook and took notes, but a soft sound made him stop. A whisper rang out from the stairs. Jake held the flashlight tightly and slowly walked up. The old wooden floor made faint groans under his feet. When he was almost to the second floor, the flashlight suddenly went out. The house was plunged into absolute darkness. A cold breath blew on the back of his neck. He tried to turn the flashlight back on. When the light flickered again, he was startled to see in the mirror at the end of the hallway a pale figure standing quietly. Its lifeless eyes stared at him. Jake screamed and turned around, but the hallway was empty. When I looked back in the mirror, the figure had disappeared. Soft footsteps sounded from the next room. Jake gulped and walked to the dark wooden door. When he pushed the door open, he discovered a bedroom with an old bed and a window overlooking the dark forest outside. On the dressing table, a diary was open, its yellowed pages fluttering in the wind. Jake approached, his eyes scanning the scribbled words. "We can't leave here. Someone is watching us. If anyone finds this diary, be careful." Suddenly, a chuckle rang out behind him. Jake froze, his throat dry. He slowly turned his head. In front of him, a little girl in a tattered white dress stood there, her empty eyes looking straight at him. The voice reached his ears, cold as the breath of the night. "I'm stuck here too." Suddenly, the room shook. The whispers became chaotic. The door behind him slammed shut. Darkness engulfed him, and then only dead silence remained. No one knows what happened to Jake Thompson, but from then on, every night, those who passed by the house on Windermere Hill heard footsteps, soft laughter, and sometimes they saw the silhouette of a man standing quietly by the window, as if looking for a way out of this place. 1 year later, a group of investigators decided to explore the house in hopes of finding traces of Jake Thompson. When they entered the bedroom where he disappeared, one of them discovered a diary lying on the table. The first pages were old notes, but the last page had scribbled handwriting, as if written in panic. "I'm still here. If anyone reads this, don't stay too long. They're coming. I'm not myself anymore." Below is another line of text, written in an unfamiliar but familiar handwriting. "Jake, thank you for taking my place. Haunted house." The cold wind swept through the dense forest, carrying with it the breath of darkness. In the dim moonlight, an old wooden house appeared like a ghost in the middle of wild nature. It is said that this place is cursed, that anyone who enters cannot come out intact. And tonight, that group of young people will discover the horrifying truth hidden deep inside it. The group of friends consists of 5 people: Min, En, Hung, Lan, and Tao. They are college students who are passionate about exploring mysterious places. While surfing the internet, Min accidentally read an old article about the cursed house deep in the Huangshan forest. Curiosity prompted them to plan an expedition. Just some wild stories. Hung burst into laughter as the group sat around each other in the coffee shop. So do you dare go? And raised his eyebrows provocatively. Of course. Hung patted his chest proudly. What's there to be afraid of? We'll go there, take some photos, shoot some videos, then leave. Simple. No one in the group knew that this decision would change their lives forever. After a day of traveling by car, the group of friends arrived at the foot of Hong Sun Mountain when dusk fell. The jungle is enveloped in terrifying silence, with only the chirping of insects and the sound of the wind whistling through the leaves. Are you sure you can continue? Lan hugged her backpack tightly, a feeling of insecurity rising in her heart. Is it possible to come here and then come back? Min smiled reassuringly. Everyone just calm down. Follow this map. We'll arrive in about an hour. However, the forest path is not easy. Tree branches intertwine to form strange shapes under the flashlight. The feeling of being watched gradually rose, but no one dared to say it out loud. Finally, when darkness completely covered them, they stood in front of the old, desolate wooden house. The rotten wooden door creaked when Min pushed in. A stench rushed straight into her nose, making Lan almost vomit. What's that smell? Tao covered her nose. It could be a dead animal. Min shined his flashlight and saw that the floor was covered with dust and spider webs. The traces of time are deeply engraved into each brick and each piece of cracked wood. They split up to explore. Inside was a living room with an armchair covered with a white cloth, a wooden staircase leading to the second floor, and a dark hallway leading down to the basement. Who wants to go to the second floor? Hung asked excitedly. Who else wants to go to the basement? And smiled challengingly. Everyone divided into two groups, but no one knew that the moment they separated, an invisible force began to act. On the second floor, Min and Lan entered a bedroom covered in dust. A large mirror stood in the corner of the room, reflecting their blurred images. This mirror is so old. Lan raised her hand to wipe away the dust, but when she looked again, she stiffened. In the mirror, behind Min, there is a woman with a pale face and deep black eyes. Min, behind you, Lan shouted. Min turned around, but there was no one there. When he looked back in the mirror, the woman was gone. Lan gasped, her heart beating wildly. Let's get out of here. She pulled Min's hand, but at that moment, the room door slammed shut. In the basement, and Hung and Tao followed the narrow path, the stench became stronger. Suddenly, Hung's flashlight flashed off. Is there someone here? Tao asked tremblingly. There was no answer. Only the sound of soft breathing echoed in the darkness. Then suddenly, a voice rang out from nowhere. You shouldn't come here. All frozen. Hung shined the light forward and the light illuminated a wall full of torn scratches. On it, there were words scrawled in blood. Leave before it's too late. A horrifying scream rang out from the second floor. Min and Lan rushed down, their faces pale. We have to get out of here now, Min shouted. But when the group was about to run out the door, a dark shadow passed by. The door in front of them slammed shut. An invisible force pulled Tao away. Tao! Hung rushed forward but was thrown away. Tao screamed in pain. Her body contorted as if being strangled by an invisible force. Her eyes were wide open. Her mouth was bleeding. In the last moment, she was able to utter one sentence. It has awakened. Then her body was torn apart. Blood splattered on the wall. Whispers in the night. The night sky in the countryside is strangely quiet. The wind whistled through the leaves, carrying cold air that penetrated the skin. Min, a young man, returns to his hometown after many years away. The family's old wooden house is located separate from the village, surrounded by vast fields. This house used to be where Min grew up, but it is also a place that holds not-so-pleasant memories. Min remembered the ghost stories his grandmother used to tell about this house. As a child, he often heard someone whispering at night, but every time he opened his eyes, the room was still empty. I always thought it was just a child's imagination, but now, standing in front of the old door, fragmented memories suddenly rushed back like a cold wind. After cleaning up a bit, Min decided to go to bed early. He lay on the old bed, eyes half closed, trying to forget the feeling of insecurity creeping into his heart. But then, in the quiet night, a soft sound rang out. It was a whisper, soft but clear. Min, Min. Min's whole body was cold. He opened his eyes, his heart beating loudly. But the room was still dark. There was no one except him. The whispering stopped, as if it had never existed. Min reassured himself, perhaps due to fatigue, he hallucinated. He turned around and pulled the blanket higher. But then, a strange feeling crept into his skin. There's something wrong with your blanket. A cold hand slowly crawled up his back, slowly and heavily. Min froze, not daring to breathe loudly. He felt each thin finger sliding down his spine. Then a hoarse voice spoke right next to his ear. "Are you back?" Min jumped up, rushed out of bed, turned on the light. But the room was still empty. His heart beat continuously, his body trembled every time. He tried to reassure himself that it was just a nightmare, but deep down he knew something was wrong. The next morning, Min went to the kitchen to find the old lady next door, who had taken care of the house during his absence. The old lady looked at him, her eyes full of meaning. "Did you hear anything?" the old lady asked, her voice slow. Min hesitated for a moment, then decided to retell what happened last night. The old lady's face gradually changed color. She sighed, then whispered, "Have you forgotten? When you were little, you had a friend, but he unfortunately fell into the well behind the house. When everyone found him, it was too late." Min felt cold down his spine. A long-buried memory suddenly rushed back. It was a gloomy afternoon. The neighbor boy named Tin used to be Min's best friend. The two often played together around the dry well behind the house. That day, Min accidentally pushed Tin down. Too scared, Min didn't dare tell anyone. When adults found out, it was too late. Min has never recalled that memory. Until now. The old lady looked at Min, her voice trembling. "That boy's soul still lingers here. He has never left." Min felt his chest tighten. That night, he decided to go behind the house, where the old well was. The well had been covered up a long time ago, but when Min walked closer, he suddenly heard a creepy sound coming from underground. "Min, I'm so cold. Help me." Min's whole body stiffened. He backed away, but suddenly felt something grabbing his leg, pulling him towards the well. Min struggled in panic, but the pulling force was too strong. In an instant, he saw a pair of white eyes flashing in the darkness, a pale face with a distorted smile staring back at him. Min screamed and fell to the ground, but when he opened his eyes, it was all gone. The night wind was still cold, but everything seemed to be back to normal. Min gasped, his heart beating wildly. The next morning, he decided to leave that house forever. But before closing the door, he still heard a familiar whisper echoing in the wind. "Don't leave me behind, Min." Mystery of the haunted house. That night, in an old house located quietly in the middle of a dark forest, the wind whispered through every crack of the rotten wooden door. The pale moonlight shines down, covering the space with a mysterious color. This house has been abandoned for a long time, but it still seems to be not completely empty. Something still exists, hidden in the darkness, waiting. It is said that many years ago, this house used to be the home of a wealthy family. But after one fateful night, the whole family disappeared without a trace. No one knows what happened, only that every night, people passing by hear whispers coming from inside. Some curious people tried to get inside, but none of them returned to tell what they saw. Lan, a young girl who loves to explore mysteries, decided to find out the truth about this house. She brought a flashlight and a notebook and entered the house under the faint light of the night. The wooden door creaked open, revealing a stuffy space with a musty and dusty smell. The first room she entered was the living room. The old curtains were still hanging, swaying slightly with every wind that crept in through the broken windows. On the wall, the portraits were cracked. The eyes of the characters in the paintings seemed to be following her every move. Lan swallowed, a cold feeling running down her spine. She continued walking into the long hallway where the doors were ajar. With every step she took, the wooden floor beneath her feet made creaking sounds, as if someone was watching her every move. A cold breeze passed by, making her shiver. Suddenly, one of the doors opened, without any impact. Inside the room was an old table, covered with dust and cobwebs. But amidst that thick layer of dust, a diary was still intact, as if someone had just put it down. Lon hesitated a bit, then slowly flipped open the first page. The writing was scribbled, but she could read what was inside. "We can't leave here. There's something in this house. It's watching us, waiting. If anyone finds this diary, please leave here now before it's too late." Lan's heart beat strongly. She raised her head and felt like someone was standing behind her. But when I turned around, there was only deep darkness. She took a deep breath, reassuring herself that this was probably just a baseless rumor. But then a small sound rang out, soft laughter, coming from the corner of the room. Lon stiffened. The laughter was not clear, but it came from a dark corner where her flashlight had not yet reached. She slowly turned the light towards it, but there was nothing but an empty wall. But as she turned to continue walking, a silhouette flashed past in the old mirror hanging on the wall. She took a cold breath. Her heart seemed to stop beating. She knew she was no longer alone in this house. An invisible presence was watching her every move, waiting for her to make a mistake. The mysteries of this abandoned house are still unsolved. Will Lon continue to explore or turn and run away? And if she stays, will she be able to escape what lurks in the darkness? Those questions still hung in space, while her flashlight suddenly went out. The story of a haunted house, melancholy souls, and unsolved mysteries leads us through a journey full of horror and mystery. It is a place where the boundary between reality and the underworld is blurred, where no matter how hard people try, it is difficult to escape their arranged fate. But perhaps the scariest thing is not demons or invisible forces, but the secrets buried in the dark, the truths that no one dares to mention. There are things that, once known, can never be forgotten. If one night, when falling asleep, you suddenly hear a whisper in your ear, remember, there are stories that never end. They are just waiting to be told. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this story. If you feel shivers or your heart is beating faster, don't worry. It's just a story? Or is it real? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to watch more scary stories. Good night, if possible.